Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where a wild Karen demands help raising her baby. Am I the jerk for telling my sister to stop expecting me to play baby daddy? I'm 29, female. My twin sister, Maya, has a 1-year-old son, Lucas. A little backstory. She had a horrible pregnancy right from the first trimester and had to quit her job since she was spending too much time out of the office. Her ex-boyfriend turned out to be a real jerk who claimed Maya had cheated on him and pinned the baby on him. When my family insisted on taking a paternity test as soon as the baby was born, he agreed, but then went out for some milk before the due date. After Lucas was born, finances became too tricky with the newborn and Maya's postpartum complications. She asked if she could stay with me temporarily so she didn't have to pay rent, and I agreed. I have an extra room in my house, which I inherited from my grandma, so I don't have to worry about rent either. Long story short, it's been tough living with a baby whose mother needs so much more help than one person can provide. Our parents live too far away to be of any help. Anyway, I don't mind waking up half the time to give Lucas his bottle or staying with him when she needs some time to herself. I also paid for everything baby-related, hospital bills for both her and my nephew, food, clothes, diapers, you name it. But now that Maya and my nephew are stable enough that she's resumed working, she started pushing for more. She expected me to keep paying for everything, but I told her it's harder now that I'm not putting in as many hours, and I get paid per hour. Still, she buys nothing, and I end up paying anyway. She also thinks it doesn't make sense to pay for daycare when I'm home most of the day. I ended up paying for it myself when she wouldn't. I think it's important to add that I refuse to adopt Lucas. Everyone has always known I will adopt a child or more in the future, but when Maya asked, I didn't think she would be willing to stay in her biological son's life as an aunt. I don't think the confusion would do anyone any good. So on Monday, she asked me to take Lucas to his hospital appointment, and I said no. I told her to take a day off for that because my job hasn't been doing very well lately, as I've been spending too much time taking care of Lucas. She pointed out how this is my nephew, and if I adopt kids, I will need to make sacrifices too, to which I said, I will make them when the time comes, but I'm not Lucas' dad, and although I'm happy to help where I can, I shouldn't be expected to change my life for him. Maya took a day off, but since the appointment, she hasn't spoken to me except for a yes or no mumble when I talk to her, and she's been keeping Lucas in her room when he's not at daycare. I love the little guy with all my heart, and I'm wondering if maybe I took things too far. Am I the jerk? Edit to add, because I can't reply to all the comments, I may have caused some gender confusion with my phrasing, but I am female. We're identical twins. I used the exact words, I'm not his dad, in our argument despite my gender, so that's what I wrote in the post. Not the jerk. Mentioning you'll have to make sacrifices after how much you've already stepped up reeks of manipulation and entitlement. Yes, she has it hard, but she also needs to appreciate and respect how much you've helped. And you need the ability to live and move freely or you'll both sink. Perhaps she should go move in with mom or dad, but you should definitely discuss responsibilities and finances and a move-out date. Not the jerk. Important boundary set here. You are not the father or employed as a babysitter. Setting this boundary now is important to nip this unreasonable expectations in the bud. Not the jerk. I have sadly been in your position as a sister, and I must say it won't end well. You will always be reminded that it's not your kid when it's convenient for them. In my opinion, she should live on her own with her kid. You can then do normal aunt duties and not second parent duties. I hope this helps if it doesn't disregard. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Please let us know. I hope your sister's taking Daddy-O to court for some child support. She didn't make that baby on her own. I ruined a vacation because I said no when my partner asked me to marry him. Am I the jerk? My now ex-partner asked me to marry him, even though I told him multiple times that I don't ever want to get married again. There's not much to this story because the title explains it all, but I, 42 female, had several discussions with my partner, male 43, about this topic. I told him that I never want to get married, and it's not about him. It's just the fact that I see no point in it. I was married once and went through a horrible divorce when my ex tried to take away our daughter and more. Basically, I decided I never want to be bound to anyone in that way again. It's easier to just break up than to divorce. My partner wasn't happy with this and asked me multiple times what would change my mind and if I just didn't want to marry him. These questions started to infuriate me and led to arguments because I had explained it a million times. The last time we had an argument was at the beginning of July when he brought up this topic again. I told him that I think we need to stop this relationship because it's obvious we don't agree on this issue. I made a big deal about it, and my daughter and his kids were mad at me because I wanted to break up, but he didn't. I decided to stay, and I was finally convinced we were done with this topic and that we had agreed to just continue living together. However, when we went on vacation last week to Greece, for some reason, he asked me to marry him. It made me so mad. I seriously didn't know whether I wanted to cry or scream. He asked me this in front of my daughter and his kids, which made it even worse. I said no and went back to the room. They stayed behind and probably talked bad about me, but now I realized that not marrying him was a good choice. Even though I had said no multiple times before, he thought that if he pressured me on vacation in a public place and in front of the kids, that I would feel obligated to say yes. I packed my bags and told my daughter to do the same. She was mad at me, but she'll get over it. We came back from the trip only 2 days after we arrived. I don't want to continue this relationship because I feel disrespected and disgusted by the way he thinks. I personally don't think I'm the jerk, and this is more of a rant, but I guess you can tell me. Edit. I never knew I would get so many comments, and for the people who agree with me, thank you. A little addition to this, many people are mentioning that my past relationship is the reason I don't want to marry, but no, it's not. I don't even think about my first failed marriage. It's irrelevant. I just don't want to get married again because it doesn't feel special or important anymore. Besides that, since I left from vacation last week, he sent me multiple messages accusing me of cheating and saying that's the reason I don't want to marry him. He called me some mean names, so that tells me enough about how he never really loved me or cared for me. Safe to say, this relationship is over. Basically, he's still calling me and sending messages, but now he's saying he's sorry for calling me names and accusing me of cheating. He's saying again that it doesn't matter that I don't want to get married and that we shouldn't break up. I know this isn't true because he said it before too, but yeah, I guess this is the last edit. Stop mentioning the previous divorce. I only mentioned it to say that I was married once, so it's not like this is something new to me and I'm scared or whatever. It's as simple as that. I don't want to marry him or anyone for whatever reason. I loved him, but now I hate him because he's a lying idiot who keeps insisting he's fine with not being married and then talks about it all the time. I don't care. I knew my now ex-partner for a very long time, and actually, we used to work at the same company at one point prior to being in a relationship. He knew me very well because we talked a lot before when we were both married. And no, it was not in a romantic way, and it had nothing to do with my divorce and vice versa. Later on, when I got divorced, I met him again, but this time in a different setting, and we talked and went for coffee, not even in a romantic way, just like friends who hadn't seen each other in a long time. Eventually, he asked me to go for coffee again, and we just started talking more and began going on dates. He joked that the divorce left him devastated, but seriously, he was joking about it. This is partly why I don't understand why he would want to get married again, but we're all different, I guess. I also told him about my divorce and joked about some things. As things were getting more serious, I made sure that he knew I didn't want to get married. At first, I didn't say up front that I didn't want to marry him, but I was just saying how I would never get married again. He asked me why, and I explained that ever since I was younger, I never found any appeal in it. I don't like the whole idea of being legally bound to someone and having to share everything if you split just doesn't sound good to me. I also mentioned that I never wanted to get married in the first place, but at the time, it felt like it would only make sense to get married. If I could go back, I wouldn't do it even then. I think it made people think that we were dating for years and then he asked me to marry him. But no, in reality, we were dating for only a little over a year. We didn't live together until he offered to move in together so that our kids could meet each other. This living together thing didn't last long either. He mentioned many times the things I said about marriage and asked me about it. I said it made me mad, and it did. He asked me multiple times why I never want to get married, and he didn't make it seem like a question targeted at this relationship. He would ask me if I really meant that I would never marry anyone, and it was starting to upset me when he would say things like, "Not even if I were rich?" I argued with him over this and asked him if he wanted to get married. He told me that he didn't care about marriage and that he was just joking. I do now think that moving in together was a stupid idea, but it happened, so there's no point in talking about it now. Again, when I said I wanted to end the relationship in July, it was because of this. I then told him that we should break it off because we obviously don't agree, but he claimed he was just joking as per usual and that I don't understand jokes. I was serious about wanting to end this relationship, but everyone, including my daughter and his 2 kids, told me that I would ruin everything before this summer trip to Greece that was supposed to happen at the beginning of August. Also, since we live in Europe, going to Greece is nothing too fancy, or as someone said, a once-in-a-lifetime trip. It's different than coming from the US. And also, if anyone dares to say he loved me or wanted to spend his life with me, he sent me multiple messages calling me really mean names and saying that I'm cheating on him. I didn't answer, but I didn't block him either. He kept calling me. I don't care about what he said because he was done to me after asking me to marry him. It was stupid of me to not leave him earlier. He has since deleted almost all of the messages and told me he's sorry and didn't mean it, how he loves me, we don't have to get married, and that we should get back together and all that. I told him we're done, and that's basically the end. I'm not the jerk, and I still think that. Not the jerk. But I think you should explain to your daughter about why you said no and left. Tell her that you explained repeatedly that you didn't want to get married for an extended time and that your now ex was pushy and then ignored your wishes. Explain that that is not a healthy relationship where people aren't listening or respecting each other. This could be an important lesson on what a healthy relationship is for her. You were honest about marriage from the beginning and he chose to ignore everything you told him. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. You were very upfront with him. It's not your fault he chose to do it again. You did not ruin the vacation, so stop that. If anyone ruined it, it was him. And as long as I'm on a roll, one more thing. Pulling that stunt in front of the kids was very manipulative, and I would really rethink this relationship. One more thing, I've been married twice. Don't do it. I've only been married once, and like OP, I swore never again. Yeah, I'm in the process of trying to get out of a truly terrible marriage at 25, female. Not worth it in my opinion. Too bad you can't leave your ugly past behind and decide based on whether you'd be happy with him. Once burned, twice shy. But you probably walked away from an otherwise good relationship. Being married to you was important to him, so you calling it quits was the right move for you both. But it might have been worthwhile to do some therapy, each of you separately and together as a couple. You're not wrong for how you feel, but you're the jerk. Maybe he wanted his kids to officially be your stepkids. You're making him pay for your past and not allowing him to be his best self because your ex is continuing to influence your future. But he really wanted to get married, so maybe this was the inevitable outcome. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her ex? Please let us know. There are some desires in life that will make you incompatible with other people. If you know in your heart that something like marriage or having kids is important to you, or vice versa, don't get into relationships with people who feel the opposite about it. That's not the way to a long-lasting, healthy, happy, fulfilling relationship. This is Reddit, Karen. Do you think long-lasting, healthy, happy relationships are a thing here? Good point, Reddit boy. Good point. My girlfriend is convinced that I'm having an affair with my doubles partner. I'm a pro athlete. I won't say which sport exactly for anonymity, but it's one where you can play singles or doubles. I met my girlfriend 2.5 years ago, and we had a wonderful relationship. I also made it very clear from the beginning that I would often have to be away, traveling around the country and occasionally internationally to compete in tournaments, and she accepted this and has never had a problem with it until the coaches paired me with this girl who I'll call Lucy, who I'll admit I have become good friends with. But that's it, she's not my type. Lucy is very conventionally attractive, and most guys, 100% not me, would find her more attractive than my girlfriend. I think some of her gossipy friends have got into her head, telling her that she shouldn't trust me going to hotels with this attractive girl without her there. My girlfriend is always welcome to come along to spectate, but usually she can't because of work. She then started reading into things that aren't there, like not being happy that me and Lucy hugged each other after winning a tournament together, and apparently looking too close on the team's social media, even though those pictures are designed to make the team look tight-knit. She's asking all sorts of unreasonable things, like asking me to stay in a separate hotel from Lucy. The coaches book the hotels, and the whole team stays in the same one. It would look so strange if I asked not to be with them. My girlfriend was not happy with this explanation. She's now demanding that I ask for a different doubles partner, which I refuse to do. Firstly, doing so would be like admitting there's something going on when there's not. And secondly, I'm not messing with my chances of success at winning titles because she can't get over her insecurities. During a recent conversation, I admitted to my girlfriend that soon in the run-up to the Olympics, I will probably be spending more time training with Lucy than ever before. She absolutely blew up, saying she loves me but can't deny what's going on right in front of her eyes and that she can't do this anymore. I screamed, "But there's nothing going on," and she stormed out, saying that she's going to her parents for a few days, and that's where we're at right now. My goodness, I love this girl so much and I just want her to trust me. I've never given her a reason not to. Any advice on how to convince her to trust me? Please don't say to ditch Lucy as a doubles partner because I'm not doing that. You have a strong emotional connection with another female. Your relationship isn't just like coworkers, you guys are partners in a sport. Can you really blame her for not liking it? She didn't start a relationship with you and expect you to have such a strong bond with another female. And the more time you guys spend together, the stronger that bond is going to become. I understand it's because of your career, but who would want a partner that has a strong connection with another person of the opposite gender, making a career together? They would prefer if their partner didn't have that. OP. You make a good point, but she knew what she was signing up for at the beginning. I made it perfectly clear what dating an athlete in this sport would look like, including that it would mean training and potentially partnering up with women who are very physically fit. She was always okay with this until Lucy came along. Update 7 weeks later. Things got pretty crazy. After my girlfriend stormed off to her parents, we spoke again over the phone and she still didn't believe me. I was tired of it, so we agreed to end things. She came over and collected her stuff a couple of days later, and I thought that would be the end. Then 3 weeks passed, and she suddenly came to my place at night, telling me what a fool she had been, and claiming she had come to her senses and knew that I wasn't cheating. I was pretty happy to hear that, so we made up, and it seemed like the problem was solved. Then for about a week and a half, I started to get very suspicious of this sudden change of heart, how she went from being 100% sure I was having an affair to 100% sure that I wasn't, like the flick of a switch. Her behavior was also off, like she was trying too hard to make it up to me. She was never asking me to do any chores anymore. I was coming home to a girlfriend who had my favorite meal on the table and was all dressed up for me, which was out of character for her. I then confronted her, demanding to know why the sudden changes. She denied it at first, but then admitted that she hired a private investigator in those 3 weeks that she was gone to get proof of me and Lucy having an affair to prove she was right. When in fact, he did the opposite and told her after weeks of watching that we definitely weren't having an affair. This was a big breach of trust and of my private life, so I told her we are over permanently this time. She actually accepted this quite calmly, seeming pretty resigned to it. We then parted amicably. She packed and left again, but I did speak to her yesterday. She seemed in okay spirits, enjoying Christmas with her family, and she told me she's getting therapy in the new year to work on her issues and paranoia. As for me, I'm good. I thought I would be really broken up about it, but I actually feel quite happy and free, just enjoying Christmas and looking forward to trying to get into the Olympics without all the drama. Oh, and to those who thought Lucy might have been into me, she has not made any moves on me since the breakup at all, and there have been no changes in our dynamic. Am I the jerk for kicking my sister out of my wedding because she did not follow the color scheme? When I, 25 female, was 9, my parents adopted my sister Jen, who was 7 at the time. Jen was thin and fearful due to being neglected. We did everything we could to make her feel loved. We bought her lots of toys. Everything Jen wanted, she got. When my parents asked me to move to the smaller bedroom so Jen could have my room, I was happy to do so. When they asked if I would let Jen pick the decorations and cake for my upcoming birthday, I agreed. I was so happy to have a sister, and I understood why my parents gave her special treatment. Only this treatment didn't stop. For years, every trip we went on, we had to do what Jen wanted to do. We had to eat where Jen wanted to eat, and she got to plan all of my birthday parties. If she didn't get what she wanted, she threw a tantrum. I still felt loved and cared for by my parents. They drove me to practice, bought me things, cooked meals for me, spent quality time with me, and they gave me advice, but I was always second to Jen. As I got older, I did anything I could to leave the house. I got my first job when I was 12. I vacationed with friends' family instead of my family. I played 3 different sports and did band. I took my driver's test the day I turned 16, and I bought a car the day after. I went to college on the other side of the country. Now that I make good money, I do things that I missed as a kid. I take fancy vacations and throw elaborate parties as I please. My wedding was no exception. My fiance, Kip, and I wanted everything to be perfect. We thought it would be fun to have a color scheme. My favorite color is yellow and his is blue. So my guests would wear yellow and his would wear blue, and mutual friends would wear green. I picked out a dress with green embroidered details, and he picked a boutonniere with green flowers. When Jen found out about this, she was mad. I didn't know this, but she hates yellow and says it washes her out. She told me under no circumstances would she wear yellow. I shrugged and said that was fine. I would just kick her out if she didn't wear yellow. There was no further discussion, but on my wedding day, Jen came in a purple dress. I told her to leave immediately. The color scheme was perfect and she ruined it. Jen refused to leave until I threatened to call security. The rest of the wedding went smoothly, but afterwards, my parents were furious with me for kicking her out. I told them that I warned her she would be kicked out if she didn't follow the color scheme, but they said they all thought it was a joke. They said it was cruel of me to kick my sister out over something so trivial. I told them this was my wedding that I threw without their support, so I can kick out whoever I want to. Kip came rushing to defend me and even told my parents they should be ashamed of how they treated me. Over the past few days, a lot of people I've talked to, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, they've been mixed. Some say they wouldn't have even invited Jen if they were me, while others think I should have let it slide. Am I the jerk? Edit, to clear up a few things. I figured people would assume this, but I did not ask my guests to dress head to toe in their assigned color. I completely understand that people might not have yellow formal wear lying around. I said to dress in only neutral colors and/or your assigned color, so someone could wear a black dress and a yellow jewelry, or a black suit and a yellow tie, etc., but no colors outside neutral or your assigned color. I invited Jen because she's family, and I honestly thought that she was more mature than this. I did not know she hated the color yellow when I chose that color scheme. Update. Last night, my parents reached out to me and asked if all the things Kip said about how they should be ashamed were true. At that point, I told them how my upbringing had impacted me and how my wedding was supposed to make up for the parties I never had as a kid, the decisions I never got to make. For the first time, I was able to call all the shots and make everything exactly how I wanted it. I even showed them this post and how most of you responded to help reinforce what I said. My parents said that they had absolutely no idea how deeply their treatment had affected me. This is somewhat fair because I never really talked to them about it, but at the same time, I feel like they should have wondered why I left home as soon as I could, never came back, and hardly ever text or call them. They said they feel so sorry about it and are now planning a vacation with them, myself, and Kip for next summer to make up for it. I'm trying not to get my hopes up, but at least now it looks like they're making an effort. As for Jen, according to my parents, she really struggled to make friends in middle school and high school. I didn't know this because I practically lived with my high school boyfriend my sophomore and junior year of high school and then graduated early, and Jen repeated a year in elementary, so we were 5 grades apart despite only being 2.5 years apart. My parents tried putting her in therapy, but she wouldn't cooperate. College was when she finally realized the world didn't revolve around her. She had to live in the same 7x9 room with plaster walls and linoleum floors as everyone else. She dropped out after a year and tried getting a job, but got fired after a few months. At that point, my parents realized they really messed up. They told Jen she had to either go to intensive therapy or they would kick her out. According to my parents, she's now taking classes at a community college and hoping to transfer to a 4-year institution. She's doing better for the most part, though she occasionally lashes out. I'm glad Jen is getting the help she needs and working towards a career, and I'm excited about potentially going on a trip with my parents and my husband, while also knowing they might bail. I'm open to having more of a relationship with them, but I don't think we'll ever be a super tight-knit family. Some wounds are too deep. But instead of dwelling on the past, I'm looking forward to my future, starting a family with Kip, and making sure I don't make the same mistakes my parents did. Not the jerk. The question here isn't whether or not a color scheme is stupid. It very well could be, but it's also becoming the norm. And frankly, if you don't like it, you don't have to attend the event. But what you don't get to do is say a color scheme is stupid, so I'll make up my own rules and force the couple being married to let me in. Jen was stupid here. OP, you did the right thing in kicking her out. Her feelings, that she can dictate the rules for your wedding, aren't any worse than you having those rules in place. In short, forget Jen. She got what she wanted in the end. Am I the jerk for refusing to cook meals with less flourishes for my sister-in-law? I, 28 female, make meals every day for my husband and myself to take to work. I enjoy adding my own personal touch to the meals, usually something like arranging toppings in the shape of a heart or drawing a cute face on a snack. It's a fun hobby of mine, and it brings me joy later in the day to open my lunch and see it nicely arranged. A few years ago, my sister-in-law, who's 33, had to take a lower-paying job after an accident left her unable to work at her previous job. I began making her meals like I did for my husband and myself because I knew she was struggling both financially and emotionally. She lives very close to us, so my husband always drops them off on his commute to work. I always added my extra touch to her meals as well, as I enjoy cooking and figured it would be a nice thing to do. However, a few months ago, she called me and asked if I could stop making her lunches so bourgeois. I legitimately thought she was joking, calling a heart-shaped piece of seaweed bourgeois. But according to her, none of her colleagues at work have such elaborate lunches, and it makes her feel as if she's flaunting her status. She's not paying me for the lunches, and it takes me an extra 10 minutes maximum to add a fun touch to them, so I was confused about her train of thought. I thought that maybe her coworkers were taking her lunch and she didn't want to tell me, but I agreed to make the lunches less fancy because I wanted her to feel comfortable. Since I make the exact same meals for all three of us, now I just don't put effort into the presentation on one of them. Since my husband drops off the lunch on his way to work, there have been 1 or 2 times where he has accidentally given her the wrong box. I have labeled which lunch has not flourished, but in the rush of the commute, there's still the occasional instance of taking the wrong box. My sister-in-law asked me a few days ago if I could just stop making both my husband and my lunches fancy due to the risk of her being given the wrong one. I refused, as it makes me happy to see the extra touch of personality in the food, and I told her that one accidental fancy meal wouldn't hurt her. She was furious and hung up on me. She's been refusing to talk to me over the past few days, and when I tried to call her to reason, she kept hanging up. She has told my husband that she will only talk to me if I agree to stop making all of our lunches so fancy. I'm still making her lunches every day, and my husband continues to drop them off. While my husband agrees with me that her demand was out of order, he has now said that maybe I should just make all of the lunches less flourished, so that she won't be angry if there's an accidental swap of lunches. I know it would be easier to just stop flourishing the food, but I don't want to give up my hobby for a theoretical chance of her receiving the wrong box. Not the jerk, but I think there's something more going on here. Is this kind of reaction normal for her when she doesn't like something? It just seems like such an odd overreaction that I wonder if there's something she's not telling you that would make it make sense. I wonder if she's being bullied at work and they're picking on her for the fancy lunches. An injury serious enough to make you change your line of work can really mess with your self-esteem, and then if someone is being nasty to her on top of it, it can be a lot. She may be lashing out at you because it's more than she can deal with, and you are safe. I wonder why people are paying so much attention to her lunch. I work in an office with a few hundred people, and apart from the odd, "that smells good," to my friends, I don't purposely look at or comment on people's food. You probably work with decent people that have their own lives to think about. I have known people who would actively bully and ostracize fancy lunch girl. "You sure you want to sit with us plebs? Maybe you should have your own table so you don't have to see our slop." People who have little to feel good about often get enjoyment from mistreating others, and bougie fancy lunch is a target that many otherwise good people would be too non-confrontational to defend. I'm guessing there's one mean girl type of person, not necessarily a woman, that's gaining social clout by hating. Karen demands to use my computer even though there was another one right next to me. My girlfriend, who's 34, and I, 31, we work in the same company and on the same job for the same department, but in different offices. I work downstairs and she works upstairs. I've had a very tough couple of weeks with 2 times the workload and half the staff working with me on my customers, while her customers are all on vacation and there's not much for her to do at the moment. She came downstairs yesterday to search for a document she needed. She found the document and asked to use my computer to check for something. I would have had to pause my job, log out, she would log in, check her thing. It would take about 5 minutes. I told her there's a computer next to mine which nobody's using and she can use that one. She then told me she never used it before and it takes too long to sync, about 5 to 10 minutes. I told her I was busy and that she could hang out with me while waiting and it would be fun. We could talk and I could still finish my critical tasks while she's waiting for hers to sync. Her eyes got watery and she walked away. I explained to her via chat how it came out bad, but the idea still stands. Why should I pause when there's a perfectly good computer next to me? Am I the jerk? She blocked me on everything except my number and says vile things to me. I asked her to focus on moving on because it's such a small thing and she makes it out to be a life-changing experience. For lunch, she asked me what I wanted and she brought it to me. I thought all was well until she completely ignored me while we ate, and when I was finished, I thanked her and made small talk with her, but she just told me to go away. Side note, 2 women from IT and HR came up to me and thanked me for an ad clip that I had recently worked on. They told me good job and asked to see the clips after lunch. She then blamed me for being too good to others and not to her. She then ended up leaving me at work even though we had ridden there together and I was depending on her for a ride home. I was upset, but decided to go ahead and rent a car so I could get home. At least I got to rent this car for the first time. It was a Bolt and I had never driven one before. When I got home, I cooked us a meal, which she completely ignored. She ate random stuff from the fridge instead. I didn't make any talk with her, neither did she. She then continued to watch Grey's Anatomy until midnight. I went to bed at 21:30 because it's been tough and I'm tired from work. Also, I didn't want to argue because it just wears me out. Help me out. Am I really the jerk? Not the jerk. Your girlfriend needs to get better at handling your working and personal relationship. Your response regarding the computer was a very reasonable one. The silent treatment sucks, and I wouldn't want to live with someone like that. She's sulking because she didn't get what she wanted. Going silent treatment or throwing around names? How old is she? If she's an adult, that's not acceptable behavior. Not the jerk. Never stay in a relationship with someone who treats you like this. Immature, toxic people make the worst partners you could ever ask for. Am I the jerk for not allowing my stepson, who's 12, to live with us? I have 2 sons who are 10 and 5, and I'm getting married in the next couple of weeks to my boyfriend who has a 12-year-old son from a previous relationship. My future husband's son asked his dad if he could come live with us after we get married because he wants to experience a genuine family dynamic with parents and siblings, given that his biological parents never married anyone else. My husband is on board with this idea, believing it would contribute positively to the boy's personal growth. I expressed to my husband that I have reservations about having him live with us, based on observations during the weekends he spends at our house. Firstly, he appears to have a strained relationship with my younger son. He rarely includes him in activities unless I specifically ask him to do so. When we're at the park and I ask him to accompany my other son to the restroom for safety reasons, he gets an attitude about it. Secondly, he displays an excessive competitive streak towards my older son. He consistently aims to outperform him and even taunts him when he succeeds. I find this overly competitive atmosphere uncomfortable. I desire my kids to grow up in a nurturing and supportive environment. The third and most significant concern is his academic and behavioral performance. My boyfriend has informed me that his son has been struggling academically and has faced minor behavioral challenges. I'm concerned about his potential negative influence on my kids, particularly my older one. My husband dismisses these concerns as typical for his age, believing that with guidance he can improve. I sought advice from my mother, and she disagrees with me, asserting that providing a united family environment could greatly benefit my stepson. Both of them label my reasons as unreasonable. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. He's your soon-to-be husband's son. He's just as entitled to live under that roof as your kids are. End of story. I cannot believe this is real. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.